So he saw God in everything, everywhere. Pantheism. A pantheistic God. And you know, the Roman Catholic God is a pantheistic God. It really is. We'll talk about that maybe this afternoon. But interesting. So he went his way, and he had supernatural revelations that he said, like I said, he learned more than he learned in his whole life in those 13 spiritual exercises. Spiritual formation was drawn and developed and built upon those 13 spiritual exercises. Embedded within this discipline where you go, you get a spiritual director, you practice something called Lectio Divina, which is supernatural in itself, but you learn centering prayer and contemplative prayer. And contemplative prayer is the heart, the living heart of spiritual formation. Now people may say, oh, we don't do that. Yes, they do. Yes, they do. Okay. People who say they don't do it have written how they do it, and they practice it. People who say they don't do it have advertised their books that say, read my book and you'll learn how to do it, because I teach it in my book. And people who say they don't do it have advertisements with videos of people who say, I took a class from this person and I learned contemplative prayer. And if you buy this book, you'll learn it too, because it's in the book. And it changed my life. All right? There's a level of, I don't know what it is. I don't know what you want to call it. Denial, okay, about what really is going on. You all know about speaking in tongues and Pentecostalism, right? What would Pentecostalism be without speaking in tongues, you know? Nothing. Well, let me tell you, spiritual formation would be nothing without contemplative prayer. It's the heart of it. It's what occurs that brings people what they believe is into the presence of God. And it's an altered state of consciousness is what it is. And it's taught low-key, don't worry about trying to make it happen. It may take 6 months, but it'll happen. But they teach the elements that will bring you there. Repetition, focusing, centering prayer. This is all what leads a person's mind into an altered state. And the altered state is where Satan and his demons can have contact with you and control you. And that's the purpose of the whole thing. If you're a Hindu and you go into that altered state, like I did, you'll have other experiences than Christianity. Whatever religion you are, whatever God you believe in, the demons that are in control of everything will make sure that you have an experience that will edify that religion that you are. And you'll think, wow, I got to keep practicing this. This is wonderful. And I haven't met one person that has gone into the silence. That's what they call it, the silence, solitude, the quiet place, the stillness. It has a whole bunch of names. Right? I haven't met anybody who's been there who can ever listen to truth or ever even consider that what they're doing may be a satanic deception. Thank God, God led me out of it. I was into it. I was doing astral projection and studying with a spirit medium. I was going to be a medium, you know. God allowed me to go through that, you know, so that I would recognize this 30 years later. I know that now. You know, I often wonder, God, why did you let me go for 5 years through this whole thing? Searching, you know, searching for the truth into Hinduism and mind control and the occult, and having supernatural experiences. I was looking for the truth right from the start. Why'd you let me go 5 years? Now I know it was so that I could learn enough that would enable me to see this when it came into our church 30 years later. And believe me, it's here. That's what this is. Contemplative prayer, which is this prayer in this spiritual formation course that you learn when you go to one of these places to learn it. And right up near our GC is the Shalem Institute where they teach it. And it was probably about 15 years ago that one of our first GC members went and took the course. And then there's a number of people who have taken it up there, you know. And this is where we're at, folks, aren't we? We kind of mingle with the other churches now, you know. We learned our lesson with Willow Creek, but you know, it sounds almost radical that we don't do that, because we've been brought up the last 25 years to think this is the normal thing to do. Okay? But you learn this contemplative prayer, this mystical prayer. It's the same mysticism that was used by St. John of the Cross, by St. Teresa of Avila. It's the same mysticism used in Hinduism, you know. And you know, going back to my own little story here, Rosie and I searched for 5 years, and we were disciples of a guru in New York, Sri Chinmoy, and Santana, the great rock and roll Santana. He and I, all of us, were in an elite group of disciples that met Sunday night and Thursday night, twice a week. And our guru told us that he was our savior. He was our savior. That he took our karma, he took the evil from us, so that we could be freed from the birth-rebirth cycle. And after about a year, I'll stick to the testimony now, if I can. My mind is going lots of different directions, so forgive me. But after about a year, and praying 3-4 hours a night, every night, God, whoever you are, I want the truth. I don't want to be fooled. You know, I was having supernatural experiences, and you know, I couldn't help but think, is it from God? Is there a devil? Is it possible that some evil power is giving me these experiences? You know, I didn't know. And I wanted truth more than life itself. I really did. You know. And after about a year, reading the Bible one night, I came across Acts 4:12 that said, "There's no other name given among men whereby we must be saved." You know, Jesus Christ. I said, wow. My guru told me he was my savior. He also told me that the Bible was a path to the truth. But that which he said is a path to the truth says there's only one Savior, and my guru, Jesus Christ, and my guru says that he's my Savior. That was a problem. So I asked about that. And the answer was, well, they're just parts of the Bible you don't believe. And that really threw me, because I said, well then, I don't want to believe this, and you don't want to believe that, and she doesn't want to believe this, and you know, forget it. You have 1 million people, you got 1 million religions. Everybody believing something different. I was looking for the truth, immovable. And during that 5 years, as I studied the different religions that are out there in the world, they were never consistent. Each one, you know, like in Hinduism, you read something written through inspiration, it says one thing. You read something from someone else who was also inspired, it's different than what that person said. And this is what was so frustrating. But the most frustrating thing during those 5 years was that I was a sinner, and I knew it, and I could not change. I had no power to be holy. And every person I talked to, whether it was in Hinduism, whether it was the spirit medium, and don't worry about that. It was always, don't worry about that, and that's all I could worry about. That's all I could worry. I didn't want to be the way I was. And I had no power to change. And I believe at this point, that's what kept me going. Well, after he said that, I said to myself, I can't do this. I know there's a God in heaven, and I know he knows that I'm searching for the truth with all of my heart and all of my soul. That I want it more than anything in life. So I quit. I'm not going to look anymore. I quit. God, you know what the truth is. Lead me to it. You lead me to it, and I'm not going to look for it anymore because my search has led me down one dead-end road after another for 5 years. And I quit, and it was like light dawning on me, you know, that, hey, God can lead me. He knows I want the truth, and I did. I quit. I stopped searching. But of course, I was looking all day, every day, you know. Where's the answer to my prayer? Is it the occult and the supernatural? Or is it the Holy Bible and Jesus Christ? And that's all I was doing every day, you know. Even at work, wherever I was looking. Where's the answer to my prayer, God? Where's the answer to my prayer? Well, the phone rings. It's Union Carbide Corporation, responding to a resume I sent out, who knows, a year earlier. And I went in for an interview. I took the job. And we had to move. So we got a local paper, and we looked in that area, and I saw a town, and I lived in New York all my life. I saw a town that I never saw before named Crampon. And it made my fingers stop as I was going down the houses to rent. Crampon, yeah. 3-bedroom, Cedar Lake, small house on the front of a 5-acre estate. Oh, that sounds great. Is it still available? Yes. So we went up and we looked at it. We had 2 little children at this point. Just had our second. And he's showing us this place. It was perfect. We knew it was perfect. It was great. And there was a house next door. And I said, if I moved here, who would my neighbor be over there? And he said, well, I don't know his name. All I know is that he's a minister. Boom. It was like my heart jumped out of my chest. Really. I mean, you have to understand, that's all I was looking for was an answer. You know? I said, what church? Seventh-day Adventist. Who? I was 28 years old. I never heard, and I lived in New Hyde Park where the conference office is in Greater New York Conference, but I never heard of the Seventh-day Adventist. But I could not deny that God led me there. I knew it. I knew it. And I said, I gotta find out who these people are. And you'll meet the pastor there. He's coming later this afternoon, if you come back. John Lupin is his name. He's an associate pastor down at the El Cajon Church. And quite a story. The person who got my book going first talked to Herb Douglas, and Herb said, you got to talk to Rick Howard. Okay. And then later on that day, he was talking to somebody else and said, I know a pastor in El Cajon who's dealing with this subject in his church. You ought to call him. So he calls John Lupin. And John Lupin says, in the middle of their conversation, you ought to call Rick Howard. And he goes, how do you know Rick Howard? He goes, I'm the pastor that he moved next door to 35 years ago. And he became a servant. So this person saw God's hand in this whole thing. He said, you know, I'm going to try to get Dwight Hall. And, you know, to speak to Dwight Hall, you need to make usually a 30-day appointment to talk to him on the phone because he's so busy. He reaches him and stays on the phone for 35 minutes. And then Dwight calls his editing secretary and says, check out this book and see if we want to do it. She did, they did, and they called me. And that was the first I heard. And all this took place, you know, and it was all providential out here. That's how I know it came out at the right time, you know, which makes me feel I can speak freely, you know. I don't feel it's my place to name names of people. You know, I don't have to do that. I don't have to do that. I mean, if you learn the truth, if you learn what's going on here and recognize it, then you'll know how to deal with it. You know, I'm praying for the people instead of naming their names. Okay? And there are some people that I have loved all my life. All my life. Mentors that are now just turned against me. Really bad. Will not read this book. Well, I will not read this book. This is the reaction. Unbelievable to me. At least read it. I read everything, you know. I mean, I'll look at it at least. Especially, you know, if it's an Adventist book. And by the way, you know, some people have said in my book here, because I talk about that we should not be reading other material, listening to CDs, watching videos of speakers from the fallen churches, unless God has you do it for a reason. All right? You know, there are those that say, he says, oh, you should never read a non-Adventist book. You know, no, I don't say that, not at all. You know how much I had to read to write this book? Plenty. But we're not to read them thinking we can find light and information that will help me improve in my spiritual life. God has given us everything. And if he has anything new to give us, he's going to give it to us, not them. And I know this is not easy to handle after 30, 40 years of thinking that we should be a part of the sisterhood of Protestant churches out there. You know, they think terrible of us. They think we're a cult. And we don't like that. But folks, we're going to have to learn to like it. Because we need to be separate. You know, mingling with the fallen churches is what Satan has done since time began to have Israel fall. He knew exactly how to do it. Get them mingling with the nations around. Little by little, until you have a whole generation that says, you know, we need to witness to these people and take them in and marry them and everything else. And he got Israel to fall over and over and over on this